hear me?
No, yeah.
Good. And if you don't hear me, shut up, Tim.
Don't bully me.
Ladies and gentlemen, 3 things. 1, welcome back to one of my information panels. I hope you've missed them. Number 2, welcome to the Azumanga Daioh 20 years of England's awesome. And number 3, why the hell are you still up? I was not expecting a full house at 11 p.m.
Lucy's here under duress.
Okay, so let's make the first question. Who hasn't, if anybody, seen this?
I've not seen the whole series.
Okay, there'll be spoilers. I apologise. Other than that, that's all we need to know. So, there you go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so basically, this is one of my favourite anime shows of all time, and the anime turned 20 years old this year. Yes, now we all feel old. So basically, shut up, Jeff. So we're just going to go through pretty much everything we remember about it, what's good about it, and how it's actually still aged quite well over 20 years, because it's surprisingly aged well, considering a lot of the circumstances and themes that have actually come in the more recent years. So, at the very end, as long as we have time Pete doesn't kill me, there'll be a little mini quiz as well to win some shiny stickers I brought. Yeah. Okay, so, we'll get head to that in a moment, so we'll just get through the basics first of all. So, introductions. You'll all probably have that cooking song in your head now. Now I'll show you that image. So, as a guy actually debuted as a manga in 1999, but most people remember the anime, which debuted in 2002. And from the popular the anime, particularly in the West, the manga then became more popular. It was also one of the first major anime that worked from what was called a 4-coma series, or 4-panel. This would have been a lot more other series, which I'll explain briefly in the next slide. To today, we still have a lot of fan content art about this. Whilst people may have forgotten about this, a lot of people consider it a cult show as one of the premium schoolgirl / slice of life anime in the early 2000s. So, a few examples on the left. You can see Lucky Star and Nichijou. Okay, these are both 2 series that were considered slice of life 4-coma, which was more specialist than Azumanga Daioh. So basically, a lot of people say that this is more of a general series. I will say a lot of the jokes. You do need the translator notes. So if you had the original DVDs I had, the ADV ones, or you have the original manga or the omnibus edition, they do have translators notes which work with a lot of the jokes that you may not be able to understand. So basically, a lot of these type of series were oversaturated in the mid to late 2000s. But it's one of those few series that tends to get a free pass nowadays. So the 2 series I mentioned on here, they are fan favourite series, but there are a lot of complaints about them for basically pandering and things like that.
And sausage.
Azumanga and sausage. I like sausage, yes. But Azumanga seems to get away with that because it's one of those original ones, so it kind of gets a free pass. So a lot of the tropes and the genres that you associate with like schoolgirl comedy series, a lot of these originated from Azumanga Daioh. I'm sure there are older series in the 80s and 90s that had that same vibe, but this is the one that most people remember. So, like for example, like more zany or moe type shows that increase that factor. This one kind of like managed to balance it out a lot better than a lot of those. So, like with those stuff, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm kind of winging it. So, pretty much, it was incredibly influential. The series was, and it became very popular in the West. So, when it first became popular. The concept of an anime or a manga that focused solely on basically everyday school life was actually quite original, or at least very novel in that case. And it classified a lot of the distinct schoolgirl series tropes, whilst featuring a very varied cast of characters, all with distinct personalities, which I will go into. So we're doing a character by character analysis as well. Nearly every other schoolgirl kind we've seen there tries to make one up what Azumanga Daioh basically had back in the original 2000s. So a lot of people may watch this series now, after watching a lot of more modern series, may wonder, why was this so popular? But it was like one of those ones that was like the originator, so to speak. I did mention a few things on here. So in Western fandom's heyday, it was massively influential on online culture. It was the original show to bring the term waifu into consideration. You may want to remember this for a quiz I'm doing tomorrow. Excuse me. Yes. I'm going to explain who as well. It's also a character I'm not going to talk about much because you'll understand why for those who know who I'm on about. Osaka in particular was one of, if not the most popular character back in his heyday, not just as a Azumanga Daioh, of the internet. She is very beloved, even to today's perspective. It later laid the groundwork on what many fandoms considered as a popular character, as a very unique individual. However, from a modern perspective, it can be hard to understand what was so important about it, following what its most distinctive traits were, and it's now more the cult following, like how popular it was back in the heyday. So, for those who remember, it was like back in the A&V fandom, the A&V Hell series back in the mid-2000s. Literally the very first one, 60% was azumanga daioh.
It was.
Yeah, so that's how popular it was back in the heyday.
All glory to the hypno-saga.
Yes. So, it's also classified as what one of my favourite genres, slice of life. So, even though it's like slower than, say, a modern shonen series like My Hero Academia or Naruto, it does help because it has its own enjoyment, and as I say, I tend to enjoy this sort of series a lot more. So I'll go mundane experience with hints of melodrama, equipped with absurdity/comedy events at a high pace. So the series on the right, how many have seen Toradora? Which is one of my personal favourites.
Not every episode.
Yeah, okay. So I classify that as another very good slice of life, but it adds more drama compared to a series like azumanga daioh. So you can split the schoolgirl series into and adding male characters, adding more romantic elements, adding more dramatic elements, but still keeping the same tropes of what a series like azumanga daioh basically became popular. So it makes the series more that classified as mundane, try and make it more interesting. So this is where a lot of the comedy comes in a show like azumanga daioh. So eat your tomatoes, Chiyo.
To be fair, he was the only character that scared me.
Basically, it was a bit weird to adapt the 4-panel series to what was called to an anime fan, and so even the creator was not a huge fan of this, and so they had to change things over to basically break it out. So if you remember, like a traditional 4-coma is like very quick jokes, 4 panels, the joke is done. So to work this into like a 22, 24-minute episode of an anime, you have to stretch things out, make things pauses. You may remember there's a lot of repetition in azumanga daioh with some of the jokes, like there's one famous one where I think it's Tomo bashes Yomi over the head in a dream sequence game, Nandi or what in the heck in English. And basically that's repeated for like about a minute straight, so they're trying to stretch out the gags on there. It does help with some comedy situations, so anything to do with Sakaki and the biting cats, anything to do with Osaka in general, and of course the giant yellow cat, Chiyo-chichi, which is basically a thing with Sakaki's imagination, but thinks it's Chiyo's dad. Yeah, Sakaki's fun. Okay, so because of this, we have a nice combination of comedy, but also realistic characters, or at least characters you can identify with. There are some unrealistic elements on there. For example, I do explain this bit, but for example, Chiyo going through skipping grades is something that probably wouldn't be something you'd see in Japan, even back then, never mind now. And some characters like Kimura would not exist. Because, well, I do mention it about a bit later, but they see in the updated version, which unfortunately never got a Western release, they do not include that character at all in the extra 4-coma strips that they actually did. But as I said, what makes it unique, at least back in the early days, was each character was very unique and had a specific like archetype or stereotype, which made them play off each other quite well. So because of this, the characters are what draws any show, to be honest. Azumanga is one of those ones that kind of stood the test of time. So a similar show I compare to is K-On! So K-On's a series that has a reputation of being quite a hype of the moe genre. But because people were really into the characters, it became very popular, and also caused a boom of anime figurines, which basically caused an increased boom in Japan for actually profits. So it can work to a detriment of a modern audience, but at the same time, works on other people's pockets. So we're going to go through each character one by one, starting with Sakaki. You can argue that Chiyo is the main character, but Sakaki is the one character I tend to identify the most, so she's the only one that really goes through a true plot/character arc. She's shown as a quiet, introverted type, but then you quickly learn about her love for animals, basically her interesting imagination, again with Chiyo Cat and a lot of her dream sequences. And things like, there's a sequence in it basically where, I'm trying to remember, is it Yukari brings in a kitten into the classroom, and then Sakaki just goes in this like little dream sequence, just speaking in her mind about this kitten's journey, basically going for like Marco Polo type strategy, and everyone in this calls cat Tama, which is basically like just a normal name for a cat in Japan. So you pretty much established from the picture that Sakaki is quite the cat lover. This is kind of like one of the running gags of the character, especially with the biting cat Kamineko. But we learn, even though Sakaki tends to be like the quiet time, this doesn't really a detriment to her and her friends. I mean, she becomes quite popular. It's almost like this older sister type to Chiyo, for example. And I always argue who is Chiyo's best friend. It's always between Sakaki and Osaka for me, because they are both quite close to her in different ways. So this is why I think she's the only character that kind of evolves, because she finds friends she doesn't have to be shy and reserved around. And of course, this is the one real spoiler, is that she does find a cat by the end of the series. I love Maya. We do talk about Kitty in a little bit later, but basically, I always compare the relationship with Maya and Sakaki is very similar, because of course Maya does become orphaned, again, a little spoiler, and basically goes alone in the world. Sakaki always felt like that because of her height, as she was always kind of alone in the world. When she's like this, everyone thinks she's like this delinquent-like person. She's so tall, she's so cool, but she just wants to be small and cute like Chiyo. It's really weird, it's really cute. And I love that image at the end, that is like adorable. Your Chiyo penguin is like the rotting teeth of cutedom back in the mid-2000s. So because of this, I like Sakaki because she grows into a very heartwarming character. So you see protecting Chiyo from the cats. There's also the famous scene in the race, third season of the athletics meet, where Chiyo gets passed by everybody, and they get knocked, and she gets knocked by one of the other teams, and Sakaki, who's not normally one to be confrontation, gets serious. Puts her head in a ponytail and literally just blasts through everybody, and then Yukari ruins it for everybody. So basically, we see again a lot of friends with Riot Kagura, another character on there. And as I said, the one thing that's always been an assumption with Sakaki is she's a lot of things cute. She has a room literally full of plushies. She loves cats, even though pretty much any cat pretty much hates her to the end. Even toy cats explode to her when you have her when she's trying to approach them. And literally, tell me she's not cute. Seriously. Speaking of cute, the prodigy icon and mascot of the series. So Chiyo's a 10-year-old who skipped all the way to high school and is probably the smartest and wisest person in the class. But yeah. But she's still a 10-year-old girl who wants 16-year-olds and Yukari sensei. So yeah, Chiyo's showing, let's inform you, she's done with your shit. Yes, and you remember the scene on the bottom right, the Yukari mobile. And Sky and Chiyo for life, pretty much the entire series. I said, Chiyo's not like classified the perfect character. She's still from a 10-year-old girl, so she gets quite competitive, gets annoyed, usually with Tomo, the Yukari mobile, and her size always gets picked on a bit because she doesn't really grow much in the 3 years that we see her. She's still like the same size, or even smaller than her elementary school friends. But yeah. She makes friends easily, I said, including Sakaki. I always said because of her best doggo, she's able to bribe Sakaki with doggo pets, which is always easy, yeah. Combined innocence, with her attention, she can be taken advantage, but of course, Chiyo Penguin is literally the icon of, oh my god, why is this thing so cute? Yeah. The other thing that is kind of never really stated that much is just how wealthy Chiyo is. She's actually got a big giant mansion which seems ridiculous by Japanese standards. She never really flaunts it or shows off. It's there. And her friends are like always amazed for it. And she was like, I don't know what the big deal is. My parents are rich. We never see them, but we know they're rich. And of course, that smile with best doggo, Mr. Tadakichi or Tadakichi-san, yes. But also that's was the heart of the group because she helps everyone with their exams. They all come to her house basically when they do the exam arc. Helps Sakaki take care of Maya. Arranges the summer house meets, and she's the one obviously supposed to Sakaki on to kick butt in athletic meets. She is nice, and I do admit that Chiyo can get grating at times. There's no doubt about that, but it's kind of like even Tomo admits that she's a pure soul. So she's like one of those. She's the innocence as well as the wisest member of the cast. And of course she has that. I'm sure she's got best doggo as well. So, but enough about that. Time for a bitch.
That was really loud. You were just drifting off there, weren't you?
Tomo. Yeah, she's a hit or miss character. Yeah, but whether you like her or not, the show is probably not the same without Tomo. She is loudmouth, chaotic, incredibly egotistical, and she's actually one of the worst students in the class, both academically and physically. But she's also a reminder that it's okay to have fun at times, and is a big source of the show's comedy. But For anyone who's young, don't grow up like her. Seriously, please don't grow up like her.
Oh, too late for that. Chris.
Damn it, Jeff.
I want you to grow up like that.
Yeah, even Chiyo gets pissed off with her, like with those scenes on there. So yeah, when she mocks Chiyo, when they want to do the Chiyo-chan show in the I forgot what it is, the culture festival. So as I said, Tomo's very challenging, but she's not actually good at anything apart from annoying people. So basically, she can never beat Chiyo or Yomi in academics, except for that one time, which I'll get to. Athletics, Kagura or Sakaki, she loses. Of course, she never insists she loses. She's either number 2 or that marathon scene where she actually ties, because she was first for like the first part, and then was like third last after Osaka and Chiyo. We classify her as the Genki girl, so basically she's the one that is the smiley, wants to enjoy life, but because she's also very annoying, you don't want to see her win, because that's what makes her more funny. She does have some skill though in terms of effort. For example, she went to the same school as Yomi just to spite her, so she pretty much basically studied like a man just to get in the same school as Yomi, and actually does beat Yomi getting into school before before Yomi does, although I suspect that Yomi might be doing more harder exams. Also, for some reason, she likes doing weird things like punishments for like buckets of water, when that was like outdated even in the early 2000s. Now, does anyone remember this scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chiyo, if I lost this key, disaster would happen. Bitch, keep it going. Yes. Yeah. As I said, in that scene, Tomo throws the key to get into the summer house. Why? Because. There's no reason, just lol. See, because of this, she's actually the primary source of classified as a nice comedy, apart from potentially Osaka. But because she's so energetic, she basically just does what she wants. So for that record, she actually has no consequences for her life. She just enjoys just doing whatever the hell she wants. So yeah, Jeff, you love this character.
Basically, just don't suggest things in front of her.
Don't suggest things in Tomo, because then she'll do it and then you'll cry for the next 15
She's not my
minutes.
favourite though, Chris, I will say that.
Oh, okay.
I do have a favourite, but it's none of the ones said so far.
Okay, so, the most normal of the bunch, inverted commas.
And the reason we got given this series in the first place.
So Yomi, or Kiyomi, her full name is, she's a jack of all trades but doesn't have anything specific. So she's athletic, but not to Kagura Sakaki's level. She's smart, but not to Chiyo's level. For some reason, she's Tomo's best friend, and to this day, I still don't know how that happened and how it's stuck. Because of that, she doesn't have any specific traits that are outstanding, except for the fact that she, for some reason, thinks she's fat. She isn't. She's not fat. Not in the slightest. Of course, Tomo presses this button every time, including an anime exclusive episode, which wasn't in the manga, where she goes into a radio show, and basically, I think it's Crying Little Diet Girl or something like that, as a name or something like that, which of course Tomo proceeds to take the piss out of.
Tomo's a complete piece of work, actually.
Yeah, she is a bitch. Yeah, so the things are like, she is actually competitive. I mean, she's the last person to pass her exams. And she does like to be confident. There's a scene where she's a cheerleader. She gets embarrassed in power and calls her cute, and then it turns out to be Chiyo she was referring to. And of course, there's that famous scene where she is very excited to go to an amusement park, and then all of a sudden catches a cold. We all felt really bad for her. Of course, again, then you get the phone call, and Tomo's still being a bitch, because Tomo.
She does get to go the next time.
Oh, she does, yeah. And of course, she's not the most perfect. She still gets to punch Tomo, no matter how deserved it is, she still punches Tomo a lot. What's really weird is though, the scene on the right, she's absolutely terrible at singing. Even though it's Rei Tanaka, who's her voice actress, who is a very good singer in real life. And I said, what's Yomi's like the most normal one? She does have little moments. There's an early scene where she feeds Osaka spicy food, when he quite establishes that she doesn't like spicy food and gets the hiccups for the entire episode, which is the joke for the entire episode. She is the most likely to be like the mentor, even though Sakaki and Chiyo, I say Sakaki has a better bond with Chiyo, Yomi's the one that Chiyo seems to talk more academically with. She's also the most patient around Osaka, despite the above thing I just said. I would say that the world tends to hate her though. She's the most normal one, but at the same time, she seems to get the worst luck in terms of like things going against her. So I classify her as like the Bokeh to the Sukomi between her and Tomo. And also a younger version, those two are classified as a younger version of what the teachers are, Nyamo and Yukari become. One other thing that was interesting I found when I was researching about Yomi, she's also we talked about how Kimura was basically the reason why the term waifu came in. Yomi was one of the early terms of the word Zetai Rokain, for basically those who were into that sort of thing. I'll leave it at that.
It's the space.
It's the space between the thigh and the knee of tights.
Absolute territory.
Yeah, absolute territory, yeah. Weird, it's weird. Yeah. Next up, Kagura, who is a late addition to the show. She's introduced in year 2, although we do see her in year 1 in the athletics meet, where she faces off against Sakaki a few times. And like a lot of people, she thinks Sakaki is also the sporty type, whereas Sakaki just doesn't care, basically would just like to look at flowers. But she's kind of like an in-between Tomo and Sakaki, and she's not as bad as Tomo in terms of her annoyance. So initially we see her as a rival to Sakaki, even though Sakaki said couldn't care less. But at the same time, Kagura is actually way more friendly towards her, and it's immediately established as a friend, although she does keep chasing Sakaki's cats away from her, which unintentionally upsets the sensible lady. So Kagura is very energetic, but she does recognise mistakes. There's one of my favourite scenes which actually nearly made me cry. There's 2 scenes that Kagura actually does this. One is when she accidentally knocks over, is it the athletics meet tent? And basically Tomo's expecting her to do like a joke, and then she actually genuinely tears up. And the second one is when she's the one who actually speaks to Yukari at the end of the season, wants to take a chair home, and Yukari does a joking, great speech, but Kagura takes it seriously, and basically had tears in the eyes. So she's a lot more sentimental than Tomo, so I kind of enjoy her because of that. And also, there's also the famous Bonkerus episode between her, Tomo, and Osaka, which even has one of my favourite insert songs from that. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have the time to get all the music from it, but I would have played it. It's Lazy Crazy Bonkeras Des. If you look for it, just find it on YouTube. So they're the three Bonkeras there, Osaka, Kagura, and Tomo. So it's only a mix between Sakaki and Tomo. She's not very smart. In fact, to be fair, she's actually the dumbest character in the show, because she actually did worse on the test than even Tomo. So yeah, of course, combined scores, they beat Chiyo and Yomi, because was it 30, 31 and 42, I think it was? Yeah, the combined scores were over Chiyo's 100, so therefore they're smarter. They're like the Bonkeras. Doesn't work like that, girls.
Yes.
I think I know who your favourite is now, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do a little brief on these guys. Okay, so Yukari,
Yes. Yes.
pretty much adult Tomo. Her only really redeeming feature is that she can speak English, or in the English dub, Spanish. So basically, so it's like that is the every sensei thing. She's basically the trope is sensei-chan is probably the best way I can describe Yukari. Yeah. In fact, I think a few of the girls actually do call her Yukari-chan, whilst they always call Nyamo Sensei. Or actually, they say that they do call her Nyamo-chan during the infamous drunk bit with Nyamo, which I do explain a little bit. She's pretty stupid, all things considered. Lazy and motivated, but always wants to win above all costs in sports meets against Nyamo. Although it's always funny, it's always come up on. There's the famous one where she, the first year that she does a bet, and basically, I think it's 50,000 yen. And basically wants to treat all the girls to juice if they win. They do win. Nyamo gives them money. Ha! Oh, by the way, you know that 50,000 yen you owe me? I'll take that back now. And then also, yeah. And then all the girls come for juice. Hey, look at that, something shiny. She should have been in the athletics meet.
Yeah.
And as I say, don't be fooled by this rare mature pick of Yukari. Kids, do not follow her as a role model either. Don't from Uncle Spirit the stage.
Too late.
So she's like one of the worst traits of being an adult, but also, like Tomo, represents the most comic moments. One thing I forgot to put in the latest section where I said what's actually evolved quite well over the years is that in modern times, Yukari started an adult child because of her living with her parents, but considering how the economy's changed over the last 20 years, it actually seems more normal now that she does that. So, but obviously there's other things. Her drinking habits, she drinks a lot even though she can't hold her liquor. The infamous Yukari mobile. And her good driving skills not. But what is weird is that she's ironically teaching the girls something, how not to adult. So yeah, so she's a teacher, but not one that is basically regarded as a role model. Okay, now for Nyamo. Yes, The Yomi to Yukari's Tomo. So she's more what you classify as a more traditional teacher, although she's very kind. She has a responsibility stern. She has insecurities because, you've read the bit. So basically, because she's a gym teacher, she keeps getting annoyed when Yukari keeps calling her dumb. She's more approachable to the girl, so for most of the series she's kind of like the normal teacher, except that one episode. So there's a famous episode in Azumanga Daioh where they go to the cabin, Chiyo-chan's summer house, and because Yukari is a very bad drunk, Nyamo takes it on board to drink a bottle of sake along with whatever else they brought to make sure Yukari doesn't drink it, which leads to one of the funniest scenes in the entire series. So you see her basically talking about sexual escapades with the girls, and then as she's about to go into a talk with them, you get cut to basically scenes of Chiyo in a field and like calming music in the background, and and pretty much you don't hear what she actually says. Keep in mind, Chiyo's also there and he's 10 years old. So the next morning, Nyamo wakes up with a hangover. And then she greets us, and then Chiyo says, "Oh, good morning," and Nyamo says, "By the way, Nyamo, what do you mean when you talk about cue the music again?" And Chiyo's repeating pretty much everything that Nyamo said, and Nyamo goes, "Chiyo-chan, where did you learn those words?" "Yukari, from you last night."
Hello, Dad.
That's actual exploitation. It's actual exploitation.
Yeah. So we know she's kind. She treats she does actually treat juice to students. They do like her back a lot more as well. She always gets her birthday presents, to Yukari's annoyance as well. There's also an anime in the episode where she's considered going to an arranged marriage. There's a trope called Christmas cake when you think you're too old to actually get married, usually when you're 30 for some reason. But she also has a very hinted sexual history, along with the famous love letter which Yukari keeps bribing her with. There are many explanations what actually that means, but I'll leave it to your imagination what you think it is. Yes. Right. I'm keeping it brief with Kimura because he's a very controversial character. So a lot of people classify him as a loser as you type of characters because a lot of what he would do then would not stand in today's market. So he has attraction to high school girls. It seems he's classified as comedy.
Yes.
Yeah. Seen as quite common in Japan, but didn't go over the West for obvious reasons. Weirdly though, he has a basically very famous, beautiful his waifu, who is very attractive and basically a saint, and also has a daughter as well. As I said, he was the one who invented the word waifu to the world. Yes, my waifu, yes. However, when the manga was done with extra to celebrate his 10th year anniversary in 2009, he was absent. He's also famous in the anime. It's very weird because he seems to be more interested in Kaorin, who is both the wrong age and most likely wrong gender for him as well. So it's basically kind of like, there's a reason why you got cut out a lot more.
He's the wrong gender for her.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. But speaking of Kaorin, I'm going to briefly talk about her because she's a character that seems to have evolved, which I'll speak about 20 years later. She's actually a character that actually gives a more positive representation. So I'm going to explain a bit more. So her most famous gimmick is that she definitely has some sort of crush on Sakaki. Okay? Of course, the thing is that Sakaki seems to have said if Kaorin was a bit braver, would she join the astronomy club in that first episode? It seemed like she was interested. And of course, famously, she changed Kimura's class in the third year. We still see that she's good friends with Yomi, Chiyo, and also another minor character, Chihiro. And has some famous interactions with Tomo at the end and during the third year of the summer house. And of course there's a famous scene from this one, the episode where it goes, she's dancing with Sakaki and said, I could die, I wish I, and it was it, I hope I would die, I hope I would die. 5 seconds later goes to Kimura, I wish I were dead, I wish I were dead. So this scene here is actually from the unreleased 2009 expansion. So Osaka actually literally calls her out. Is she actually gay? The correct term is lesbian. Not that I am a lesbian. And there's a bit odd in the way. But basically admits that I would also like Sakaki if she was a man. So I don't know if they were trying to change things over, but it gets a bit extra time because of that scene. And she does get a few extra scenes in the anime too. Like in the manga you have the dream sequence, the New Year's Dream, which has Osaka, Tomo and Sakaki with their dreams. In the anime, they actually add a section of Kaorin as well. So she seems to have a little bit more popularity around, especially, again, I'll explain, a bit later that she's one of those characters who seems to have improved over the last 20 years. But now let's have a look at the critters and Chiyo-chichi.
One of my friends has a plushie cute stuff.
Cats and doggos. So we know about Kamineka. Cats are mean, he's very mean. So it's basically a running gag throughout the cat always bites Sakaki. And I know Sakaki's not telling you any other cats, but Kamineka's the most famous one. There's also the one where he leads a group of cats to attack Sakaki and Chiyo, but he's saved by another cat. AKA best cat, Maya. So basically, the famous Irumoti cat, the baby cat, who's the first cat to not actually pass Sakaki, so she's supposed to be good with wild animals rather than actually tame ones. There's a sad scene, obviously, that she discovers online that her mother has been run over, but somehow she manages to actually get into mainland Japan and actually find Sakaki, who then basically adopts her. Sakaki can't take care of the cat in her home because her mother's allergic, so basically Chiyo looks after her until Sakaki gets a place of her own. Also, he scratched Tomo, so that's always good. Togo. Tanakachi-san, okay, Great Pyrenees, which Sakaki loves because it's the first animal that she can pet without getting bitten. Apparently it can be ridden by Chiyo, but also likes to imitate Irumoti cats and jump to their owner's arms. Of course, Tanakachi-san is a bit bigger than Maya, and Chiyo's a lot smaller than Sakaki. Hilarity ensues. And then we have, there's a scene I like where Sakaki, Chiyo tells them Tatsuki you can't have cake. So he's a smart doggo as well, because he knows, okay, Chiyo's not going to give me cake. Sakaki, can you give me cake? Yeah, he knows. And then we have Chiyo-chichi. A giant, basically, what I've written down is literally everything you need to know about him. Giant floating orange-yellow cat that sometimes pops in Sakaki and Osaka's dreams. Speaks with a flowering voice. I think it's Norio Wakamoto actually.
Wakamoto!
Yeah, in Japanese, yes. He's in like 5 scenes total, and they're usually the best scenes of the episode. Yeah, we may have to eat into tomatoes if you encounter him. We don't think he's actually Chiyo's dad. We think. We never actually see Chiyo's parents, so we never know. I think that's everything. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Did I forget someone? Can't remember.
That's the one I used. Yes.
I'm sorry, Osaka, I'm sorry. Yes. Our Lord and Saviour, Ayu Osaka Kazuka, aka best character. So, how do we describe a character like Osaka? Even 20 years later, she's hard to describe.
Space cadet.
There we go. Osaka is the personification of the show itself. She's cute, she's interesting, she's hard to understand at times, but we still love her. One thing I always point out about Osaka, she's not dumb. She's a thinker. She's not intelligent because basically she did better than Tomo and Kagura in her exams, and of course there's a famous scene where she does riddles that Tomo explains better than Yomi, Kagura, and Chiyo can. Her attention span is just different. Yeah. Yeah, so what does Osaka think about? Well, how does our brain function? We shall never know. But whatever it is, we're always being trying to seclude her explanation, whether it's by Bruce Lee, hemorrhoids, or is a snail a bug. So, we know she has bad reflexes, she can't beat Chiyo in a race, she can't stretch very far. She does have a unique brain and has very childlike interest in things like bread eating contests, smacking a face in flour, in also case, and of course, Sata Andagi. And that's one of the scenes where basically repeats it just to stretch it out. She's pretty much the standout character and the mascot of the series. You know, Chiyo is what makes the mascot. Osaka is the character most people love and know about. To the point, I think I mentioned this actually. In 2002, when it got released, there was the very first Moe tournament in Japan called Saimo, and Osaka came second. I think it was Sakura Kinomoto who won it. I think it was, but it was like Osaka beat Chiyo and basically everyone else, even though she was like this series was only out for a few months at that point. What? She's not a psychopath. She's actually one of the sweetest members of the cast. But we know that she has some interesting actions. We've known being embarrassing Sakaki accidentally about her breast size. Of course, the infamous scene where she waves a knife instead of a frying pan in front of Yukari. Thinks Chiyo's going to get shot whenever she goes to America. Yeah. What's also funny is that the origin of the Osaka nickname was only given by Tomo in the first episode. Her real name's only mentioned twice in the entire series. Yeah, and only actually spoken in the first episode. The only time you ever notice the name is when they put the student names up in season 2. Ah, thank you, my booze has arrived. Thank you for the final, right? Thank you guys. But yeah, you only see it on the actual sheet because Osaka thinks she's not actually gone to, not joining Chiyo and the rest in the class. But it turns out Yukari just couldn't remember her real name, just put Osaka on there. Also, the reason why she's given the name Osaka is because she's from Osaka. In the dub, like they do a lot with the Osakan type characters, they gave her a Texan accent to try to basically go into like the equivalent of a Kansai archetype stereotype. So we know Osaka has very unorthodox way of thinking, but she basically because of her characterization, she makes everything what Azadai is as appealing as it is. So we enjoy some of her reactions, but was wondering what the hell she's thinking about. Why does she think Chiyo's pigtails detachable? Why is breaking chopsticks perfectly a good luck charm and makes angry when Tomo's about it? Yeah. It's Tomo-chan. But that's why we love her. She's so charming, she's adorable, she's great to watch. Everyone, I don't think she's one of those rare characters in anime I don't think anyone hates. I can't find anything on there. So, we're going into the crux. So what has actually changed in the past 20 years since Azadai was the big thing back then? We know he has a bit of cult following. Has he aged well? Has he aged badly? I say not that bad at all. Okay, I will say a character like Kimura, not be accepted today. Yukari's physical abuse would also probably not be allowed as well. In the manga, we saw Chiyo is not initially able to use a computer, so that's maybe 20 years later. There's skipping grades. Technology's obviously changed. We only see Tomo with some sort of mobile phone, and even then it's like those old clunky ones. So obviously 20 years on, things have changed technology-wise, things like that. But there are other things that make it quite well. So first of all, Osaka Sakaki, classified possibly as autistic, but if so, still welcome into the group. This is one of those alternate interpretation things that people have argued about. So again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is basically just what I've researched. So, we know that also a lot of the characters have some insecurities, like Tomo possibly having ADHD. But again, all the characters, if they have something like that, they're all accepted and it's not brought up. It's just something you may notice if you're like a scholar and watching things like that. Excuse me. I'm not an expert in this situation, and so I would not be the best person to ask, but this is just one of those things that can come through on this. So, whilst all these are said open into interpretation, the show's heyday, which is picked up even more today, Osaka and Sakaki displaying a lot of characteristics representative of autism, yet simultaneously being depicted as people who can find an accepting peer group whose friendship with them is genuinely sincere. Contrary to most descriptions of autistic and autistic-coded characters who tend to be more harmful. Tomo as well can be seen as possibly having ADHD as well as having major insecurities. For example, her dream sequence where she wants to be better at everything, as well as being humble at the same time, which is the polar opposite of what she is and knows she can't do. The show is an early pro-LGBTQ plus positive representation with the character of Kaorin. So, whilst not primarily known for it in its heyday, this series picked up a huge LGBT plus following in the years after its Western fandom shrunk down to a cult size. This is owed to its relatively progressive values for the time. With its majority female cast, it doesn't objectify or demean the girls, and even features a positively portrayed LGBT character in Kaorin, who we believe has a crush on Sakaki to the point of possibly being pad or bi in the supplementary lessons 10-year anniversary, which she doesn't mind if Sakaki was a guy supplementary earlier and isn't treated any less or different. It also has one of the best images, which works really well today. If you look at the background on Kaorin in that famous scene, it is basically rainbow images. So it is very, so it feels like it is pro that. And also Kaorin, because it's got a surge of popularity on social media during the turn of the 2020s, thanks to a mix of its positive LGBTQ plus representation and hugely blatant presentation of her sexuality. Third, Osaka may be one of the first early representatives of the Mo archetype, but is not known as annoying about it. As this was referring back to the Mo tournament, so Chiyo-chan is the diabetes type cute. Osaka may actually be more positive to the population of the concept. So the series is kind of proto-Mo in terms of as it codified a lot of the tropes which to the genre, but unlike other schoolgirl series that go with this concept and overrun it to the point of satire and annoyance, because the series focuses more on humour, and to be honest, only Chiyo is really the character's cuteness is empathised. Azumanga Daioh tends to be one of those few series that might be considered in a way, but also well loved this day and given a pass, which I was talking about right at the very beginning of the panel. We're talking about cute series that stands the test of time, to be really honest. So, what's the time, guys? By the way, what time we got?
1:45.
I think we should be good for the quiz. Yeah, I was just making sure how far. So yeah. So this is the A&B hell genre that was brought into the early 2000s. Okay, this was on about earlier, and so about 60% of it was basically shown in this heyday. So each of the characters on their own can be funny on their own, and not bad comedy way in cheap jokes, bad writing, but by more situation comedy. When you put them together, making this series shine through its characters, and it is a comedy goldmine. As I said, you may need to translate a lot of the jokes on there, because that's why things like ABV originally had the translated notes, the manga still does. And for this, it had a real charm to the series with these mix of characters. It basically just repeats the same thing, and yet it doesn't feel old. So you have 3 years in high school, you have the summer house, you have the culture festival, and you have the sports fest. That happens in every single one, and it still feels like it works well when things change throughout. We grow with the characters, we enjoy them, we laugh at the situations, and we also cheer with them when we succeed the exams. I did tear up when Yomi finally passed in the last episode. I did rewatch it just to make sure I knew what I was talking about for this panel. And yeah, that last episode did make me tear up, especially the scene in the school, if you remember, where they start singing the graduation song, and Chiyo starts tearing up, and Osaka hands her tissues as she used to trying to blow her nose. And yeah, you got me. So basically, we also wonder what the future holds for them. So Chiyo being in America, will Sakaki become a vet? Does Tomo actually get into the ICPO? Does Osaka become the greatest teacher known to man? These are stories we would all like to know. But it draws feelings of nostalgia and return to school, and looking at it, giving a more absurd but still charming situation, and gives simple feelings that makes you feel comfy. It's a comfy family, mate. Also, one thing I would have loved to have done if we had but I couldn't, was the soundtrack. Because the soundtrack itself is very fitting to the series. Unfortunately, when I went to look at Amazon, it was 60 quid. Yeah, it's just kind of rare to get, unfortunately. So we know the student teaching relationship is a bit different with like Yukari. But we can always see that it can adapt onto the fly. So we know, as like any show, Azumanga is not for everyone. But when I rewatch the series, it does give me a great deal of appreciation of how it's grown on me. It's not an anime I really give like a critical praise, but it's one of those animes you can sit down, turn your brain off, and just enjoy. You love the characters from whatever their quirks are. Sakaka's love of all things cute, Chiyo's innocence, Tomo being the idiot, Yomo's suffering, Kagura's enthusiasm, and anything to do with Osaka. Pretty much makes this a wonderful show. 20 years ages somewhat, but it still has a lot of going things to it, and I do recommend that if you haven't rewatched it, this is something you could definitely enjoy, and it wouldn't make too much of a difference to what you've watched in more recent years. However, we now have a little mini quiz. So I'd like to have 2 victims, volunteers, who would like to actually see how well they know Azumanga. So, would anyone like to have a go? If not, we'll see if anyone can just shout out the answers. Anyone actually want to go up?
I'm not brave enough.
Okay, so if you get it right, we have some stickers on there. So, yeah. Yes.
I think it was Yomi, Tomo, and Osaka.
No.
No, because Chiyo was one of them to start.
So, who was it then?
She's down below the counter. That was one of the gags.
No.
Chiyo, Karen, Osaka.
No. Yes.
There you go.
Chiyo, Osaka, and Tomo. She gets Maya. Which 2 of the characters design, anime only, the legendary Chiyo penguin costume? Who?
Sakaki and Tomo.
No.
Kagura.
Sakaki and?
So Tomo and Kagura.
No.
Sakaki and Osaka.
No.
Sakaki and Yomi.
No. Anyone else?
Tomo and Osaka.
No.
Miyamo and Yukari.
Cowan?
What was that?
And Miyamo and Yukari.
No. You'll be surprised. Does anyone else want to guess?
Sakaki and Cowan?
No.
Chiyo.
We'll go through them all.
His design sense is terrible.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Myself.
No, yourself. Ready? You're going to be surprised by this, ready? Karin and Chihiro.
Yes. I couldn't remember Chihiro's name.
Yeah.
Same.
Did you try if you have a combination of characters?
What position does Sakaki and Kagura come in the marathon in episode 15?
I think it's fourth and first, or is it third and first?
No.
Oh.
If you get one of them, I'll get it wrong, 'cause this one's a toughie. Well, look. No.
Fourth and eighth.
I think 8th is one of them. No, it's 5th and 6th. Sorry, I got it wrong myself. Did I say that? Well, someone's going to get the stickers anyway, so boys. In the Bonkers episode, rank in order from highest to lowest from the following characters who got the highest scores and who got the lowest from. So who got the highest?
Chiyo.
Chiyo, yes. Second highest.
Yomi.
Yes.
Then Sakaki.
Yes.
Then it's got to be Carolyn.
Yes.
Chihiro.
Yes. Yes.
Osaka. And then Tomo, and then the last one right at the bottom is
Is
Kagura.
Kagura, yes. I think we can split the stickers there for those who got it right. Who actually said?
I'll take one.
Oh, yeah. What would you like?
Okay.
I'll take Chiyo.
Yeah, I'll take
Common Echo, Chiyo, and Chiyo-chichi. Okay.
Exactly like
What nationality is the character Yukari runs away from when she tries to show off in front of Tiger?
German?
Okay, that one was too easy. Also, you got one already.
Deutschjin!
Okay, so this is the last one. What did you say? This one? Oh. Who is the first character that
The
is the
answer's
person
up
past?
already.
Oh, bollocks. Sakaki. We've got one left. Minimum bride, one-sider. Actually, you actually called them out, Phil. Actually, I'll give you the last one.
Oh, you...
So, are you saying that? Oh, you told me one. Let's spare Chiyo. Who wants Chiyo? There you go, first.
Oh.
Can I borrow your scissors there? Which do you
It's a Christmas one.
This is the Christmas one, yes.
We're Christmas special.
Yeah.
It's not the diamond one. Lost. No.
You get Chiyo. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and have a good rest of the minamicon. Thank you very much.
Chris, have you watched Comic Can't Communicate?
No, but I've got the manga. That's on my list.
Okay, do you think the entire thing, Comi especially, was basically somebody really like Izakaki and
Yeah. It's very
sissy
Sakaki.
inspiration?
Yeah.
Or,
You have to bed.
yeah.
So I've done on Netflix, so I've actually watched the series.
You would watch a video and it really feels like,
It's not by a lot of people.
really feels like she's the inspiration.
In the budget.